CGM and AGP interpretation. Also, I would, if time permits, we'll have a live demonstration. No financial disclosure for this talk. So, do we need actually CGM? Because we already have SMBG, we have glucometers in SAGES, and we have HbA1c. And if you see, most of the trial earlier always had this endpoint, and we have good data that HbA1c is associated with complication. Higher the HbA1c, higher would be the complication, right? So, do we need it? There are some problems with SMBG and HbA1c. If you talk about SMBG, first it is painful, point of sugar, risk of infection, then mental agony to the patient, and patient should be very motivated that he or she checks the blood sugar regularly, notes it down, bring to you, and accordingly you will do some intervention, right? HbA1c is the gold standard, as I already told. Most of the trials have took HbA1c as the endpoint, primary endpoint. So it provides an overall glycemic outcome for past 3 months and good correlation with the long-term complications, and it's widely accepted, available, standardized measurement is available in most of the lab. But the problem is that it will not tell you about hypo. Let us say some patient having too many hypers and hypo, sugars going like 370. So the average would come normal. That is why the HbA1c may be normal, but the patient is not doing good. There are too many hypers and hypo. And then in real time, you cannot, it's not actionable. It will take some time for change, right? So that's the problem. And then there are variants and confounding factors. If you want, you can take the pick. I'm not going into details, but yes, hemolysis, all those transfusion, iron deficiency, B12 deficiency, uremia, hyperbilirubinemia, all those will change your HbA1c level. And then some of the drugs can also interact with your HbA1c and change, right? So this slide I have put just because the organizer have asked us to keep a history slide. So this is the evolution of glucose monitoring. Earlier it was just urine glucose. In even earlier before this, the patient's urine was tasted, not tested, taste through the tongue, and that is how the name of diabetes mellitus is there, right? Madhu, that's the Sanskrit word, right? So from that only the mellitus has been developed. So that is how the diabetes name was mellitus was given. So earlier it was just the urine glucose test, then the blood glucose test, then we had handheld glucometers, and then the HbA1c, and now is the era of CGM and this automated insulin delivery system. So you can consider these two things like photography and videography. Photography is your SMBG, where just stand still, point at that point of time, what is the blood sugar, that only you will get with the this glucometer. But in videography, it's a motion, it's a live thing, right? Same way in CGM, you have a live reading, and not only that, you have prediction that in next 30 minutes what my patient's sugars would be. So that is again a very important thing. So CGM, it's a continuous data stream. Real-time alerts are now available. Now fortunately here in India, we have Libre 2 Plus launch, which is a RT-CGM. And then trend analysis is something very important. That will help us in actionable things, right? And then comprehensive report where patient went low, where patient went high, and maybe sometimes it makes a behavior modification. Maybe patient think, okay, this is a light food, this is a good food, say popcorn, it's a light food, but the sugars will peak like anything, right? So sometimes patients also have misconception ki yaar ye khana acha hai, but that is not actually good. That is what is giving the peaks. Right. Now let us discuss a very basic thing about CGM, because without that you cannot interpret a AGP report. So TIR, TAR, TBR. How many of you have actually used CGM? Just raise your hands. Quite a few. How many of you have seen the report of AGP? Raise your hands. Quite a few. How many of you never seen any report? So accordingly I'll modify my talk. I'll be very quick otherwise. How many of you have never seen a CGM or AGP report? Okay. Very few, so I'll not be so quick then. So TIR, TAR, TBR is time in range, above range and below range. Okay, so what is in range? A very simple definition is आपके patient का कितने प्रतिशत समय normal sugar रहा है, and that normal is depending on the patient. You can change this value, but usually it is 70 to 180. That is what you keep time in range. But for an elderly, you can slightly relax the target. Lower one, you can slightly make it high. For pregnancy, again it would change. Time above is whatever you have made, like 180, and then level 1, level 2 are also again there. So this is what I was talking about. The problem with HbA1c, same HbA1c, when sugars go very high, very low, your TIR can be different with the same HbA1c. So the last patient where sugars are perfectly right, we don't have here pointer. So you can see here the last one where time in range is 100%, the HbA1c is around 7, and vice versa this first patient where too many highs and too many low is still the HbA1c is 7, but this patient will not do good in future and this patient will do good, right? So that is the thing, and this is by the ATTD, the guidelines. And if you see your type 1, type 2, the standard what you want to keep is more than 70% of your time in range, and above you want it to be lesser than 25, and below you want it to be lesser than 4%. But for old frail complicated patient who has a limited life expectancy, you don't want this patient to go into hypoglycemia. Something very similar you do here for HbA1c. आप HbA1c एक elderly patient का slightly ऊपर रखते हो because you don't want that patient to go into hypoglycemia. Same way here also the same thing is applied here. Time in range is kept more than 50% is good enough because you don't want this patient to go into hypoglycemia. So the TIR is compromised because the TBR, time below range, you want to keep it very very less, and that is why you are allowing slightly higher TAR, that is time above range, because you don't want this patient to go into hypoglycemia, because any hypoglycemia can precipitate a cardiac event, arrhythmia, MI, all those things, right? So you don't want your old patient to go into all those, because what you are doing is prevention of long term complication, and you cannot give any acute complication to that patient, right? For pregnancy we have good data for type 1 and the TIR is again more than 70%, but you see here the range is different. What you do for your pregnant female, for your GDM, the targets are different, right? Your fasting should be less than 95, your 1 hour should be less than 140, 2 hours should be less than 120. Similarly, you keep it here for 63 to 140 for your time in range, and for type 2 and GDM, you keep your TIR as high as possible. Okay, so this is the standard cutoff what we follow. Now these are metrics. What is important is TIR, TAR, TBR, and in A above and below they have level 1, level 2. Level 1, level 2 is again here 180 to 250 is level 1 above, and above 250 is level 2, whereas for below it is 55 the cutoff. So 70 to 55 is your level 1, below that is your level 2. And then something called as GMI. Has anybody heard about GMI, glucose management indicator? What it is? Okay, any other thought? I'm looking for a better answer. It's an estimated HbA1c. Okay, earlier the reports used to say eHbA1c or HbA1c, and in fact in now the apps also you will see the estimated HbA1c, but it was confusing because for the patient especially, that they used to confuse it with the HbA1c of the lab. So they have just renamed it. It's a derivative from the 14 days of sugars. What is your average HbA1c for that 14 days? And this newer terminology is now GMI, glucose management indicator. What you were talking about, sir, is percentage CV or the glycemic variability, how sugars are going high and low, right? That is glycemic variability. And very important is at least data of 14 days, and from that at least 70% of the capture is recommended for this analysis. You cannot do it in 3 days of reading, right? So that is important. Now what are the components, and let us discuss first the type of CGM. So there are 3 types of CGM. One is professional CGM, which is now outdated and it's not in market also, you would say. And then there is flash glucose monitoring or intermittently scan CGM, which we used to have, the Libre 1, okay, where you need to bring your reader to the sensor to get the readings. Now what is the problem here? Let us say patient is sleeping, patient is going into hypo, but patient is not checking the blood sugar, so he will not know, and maybe the whole night the patient is in hypoglycemia. Now this problem is solved by the real-time CGM. So their Libre 2 Plus, which is recently launched, is a real-time CGM. Also your Guardian and all those which you used with your insulin pump is a real-time CGM, which takes data. It's a Bluetooth technology here in the real time, whereas the flash intermittent scan, it is your NFC, near field communication, which is used here. And professional CGM is your retrograde data, but you can just skip because it's outdated and nobody use it now. So the components are sensor, which is applied on the body. There is a reader, monitor, or the mobile device which is used to capture the data. And then there is transmitter, and it works via the Bluetooth in the real time, and the receiver is there, and AGP software and AGP report is generated via that. Okay, now let us discuss few of the key terminology because that is important, and that is what I would be discussing. That is warm up time, lag time, and calibration. So the newer CGM usually do not require calibration, but the problem is, let us say the readings are going wrong. Now you cannot calibrate. You need to change the sensor. So there's a plus point, there's a negative point. Lag time is, let's say you have symptoms of hypo, but your sensor or the CGM is showing normal sugar, because the readings in the sensor may be delayed up to 10 to 15 minutes. That is your lag time. अभी की sugar नहीं दिखा रहा है वो. Reason being कि when the fluctuations are very high, your sensor will give readings slightly later, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, depending on how fast your sugars are changing. And then warm up time is the time taken for the sensor to get activated. Usually what we use here, the Abbott one, that has a 1 hour time. Now these are the type of CGM. You can again take a picture if you want. So these are your professional version. So I'm not discussing here, but the earlier one, the Libre Pro, which everybody of us must have used, which was your professional version, where the patient cannot see the blood sugar, but obviously we used to use some tricks, third party app, and we used to make it a real time CGM sort of, right? But that is not what the company wanted us. It is a blinded CGM where patient does not know the sugar, and you take action later on when the patient is coming after 7 or 14 days. You see the data and then you act that where sugars were going wrong. All those things happen, right? And then Dexcom G6 Pro and Medtronic's iPro Pro is a professional version. It's a blinded CGM. Now this is something important which needs to be discussed. That is your sensors which actually we use intermittently scan. The Libre 1 is there. Otherwise all those are real time CGM. The Libre 2, G6, G Connect, Eversense, all those are real time CGM. And then warm up time is almost like 1 hour. For the Eversense, which works for 3 months, the warm up time is 24 hours. And then FDA approval is for most of them is at the arm, back of arm. So we'll have a live demonstration here. Most of them say that you have to remove with CT MRI. It's not a contraindication, but sensor may malfunction. That is why, okay, but it's not a contraindication. Insulin pump integration, they have made it with Libre 2 and 3, but not here. So I put a no. Otherwise, the newer one, that is your Guardian 4, that does not require calibration, and that is what we are using with 780G, the latest one, the hybrid closed loop pump. Okay, so data sharing is now, app is available for almost everyone, and platform, the different names are there. You don't need to go in details. Like your glucometer, you can have interferences with your CGM. It's not that always it would be accurate, right? So depending on, say, a very high dose of aspirin or ascorbic acid can slightly change the values of your sensor. Okay, so all those things you have to keep in mind. Okay, now let us discuss how to interpret the CGM. We don't have a timer here. I am very quick, but we don't have a timer display, tech team. So how to interpret CGM? So if you see the blood readings on the sensor readings, that you get every 5 to 15 minutes. So almost you have readings for 100 to 300 per day, and you can even check every minute. That means 1400 times reading per day without a prick, painless reading. So the patient can exactly see कि भाई किस खाने से कितना बढ़ रहा है, आलू पराठे से कितना, एक रोटी से कितना, 3 रोटी से कितना, पोहा से कितना, उपमा से कितना, इडली से कितना. All those he can interpret and can change those habits. So it's a behavior modification. That is why the newer guidelines even consider, that is what they say with OHA, and they recommend somebody who is on basal bolus and even on basal insulin should be on CGM. But on OHA they say that you may consider. They've used word consider, right? The latest one, the ADA 2025. Okay, now like your ambulatory BP monitoring, if you don't put information that when the patient is exercising, when the patient is sleeping, it would be useless to see a ambulatory BP monitoring, right? Similarly for a CGM, if you don't know what the patient has eaten, how much he has exercised, when he has exercised, what type of exercise, what type of medicine, what dose of insulin, it's useless to see a CGM, because you will just see that sugars are going up and down. But what to do? You are doing this. See, every test what we get is to have some action. Let us say the report is A or report is B. You are going to follow the same path. So why are you getting the test? So test is for treating the patient, right? It's not a fun that just you get the test. Similarly for CGM, if you want some meaningful interpretation, you want to know what the patient has eaten, where, when he has exercised, how much duration he has exercised, what medicine he is taking, what dose of insulin he is taking. Otherwise it's useless to see these graphs. Okay. Now you can see we have here three patients A, B, C, and again you will see that the HbA1c is 6.7, but this first patient has a flatter graph, right? So this is what we want. Whereas this third patient, his time in range only of 51%, and the coefficient of variability is 53%. So this patient is going too many hypos and hypers. The graph is too much widened, and these type of patient are the one who are difficult to treat. Reason being, let us say at any point of time, say morning 7 a.m., 8 a.m., उसकी शुगर 70 भी जा रही है, उसकी शुगर 300 भी जा रही है. So that is what you have to see, and you have to solve the problem by taking a complete detailed history that why this is happening, and then only you can take any action on it. And this is what we want, a flatter, within range, a narrow graph, right? And this is your AGP report. So if you see here in the AGP report, you will have here the name of the patient. It's a blank here. Here you have a visual impact, that what is the time in range, what is the percentage, the duration, all those things are mentioned here. This is GMI. Earlier it was your average or estimated HbA1c. This is like 6.7, and then this is a daily graph, and this is an overall AGP graph. Okay. So let us discuss, just 1 or 2 minutes I'll take. So in that graph, the darkest line is the median, whereas slightly darker are 25th and 75th percentile, and the lightest most is the 10 to 90th percentile. That this is what the sugars are falling. The lightest one is probably not seen very well here, but that is there. And in the newer one, they made it color coded. Earlier it was just the blue. So you can see here the three shades, and the darkest line less of your red food log, right? And accordingly you have to, I have put two cases, just take one and I'll close here. So we have, see this patient, this was a good patient here. So this is a patient whose SMBG and HbA1c did not correlate. The patient came to us with an HbA1c of 9.8, and the fasting was 112, and postprandial was 173, like, and he was on some drugs, say metformin, empagliflozin, gliclazide. And the problem he came, I am feeling all right, but my HbA1c is always high, and whenever I check my sugar, the sugars are always okay. So like any other doctor, what we would have done is just check your HbA1c, whether it is accurate or not, from the correct lab or not, whether some fallacies are not there or not. So we tried to get it from another lab, and an HPLC method, a boron affinity method. We cross-checked all those things we did. Then next what we did is we put a CGM, and you can see that whenever the sugars were checked after 2 hours, the sugars were okay, but during that 2 hours there were too many peaks, right? And that is why his HbA1c was increasing. So after 5 days we saw the graph, and within 5 days we changed and we add an alpha glucosidase inhibitor, and now you can see the graph is totally flat. The time in range has improved from almost here 47-60% to somewhere around 98 to 96%, and the HbA1c was normalized to somewhere around 6.6. Okay, so thank you, and we are running late.